Hi everyone, welcome to Veru. So today we're going to look at Veru and it's dropped 20%. If this was any other stock, you might panic. But with Veru's, considering how much it's risen, to drop 20% is in a sense, like, it's kind of normal. Because like for anything to rise so much, it's got to pull back because there's always profit takers. And in the absence of information from the management team, because they're not going to have more information anytime soon, which isn't, it isn't fantastic when you're having to wait and having to watch a share price just go up and down by large margins. So I think we'll look at charts and we'll go, so what do they tell us? So firstly, when it popped from like this $4 zone to like $12, this was on large volume. This was like 351 million shares. So, and then it drops the next day, and that drops on 90 million shares. So immediately, one thing I like to look at is volume. Like the difference in volume, it communicates what's happening. So there's a lot of people that brought in, and they're more there to hold it for longer term. Whereas there's some people that are trading the stock, and hence why we have a much lower volume. So 90 million being sold, and then the next day after that, the stock takes another pop, and it's 187 million shares sold, and then it goes up a bit more, and it's 179 million shares sold. So you can kind of say whenever it goes up, it's on a quite decent volume, because a lot of people buying into this, they're actually in it for the longer term rather than people trading it. And then today, what's happened? Today we've got 31 million shares traded, and stocks dropped 20%. So 31 million shares being sold has basically caused a 20% drop. And then you go back from the previous days, 179 million shares were bought. Prior to that, 187 million shares. So whenever it's popped, it's on a lot of buying. And whenever it's dropped, it's because there's been some profit takers, a small amount, but in the absence of buyers, then yeah, like the stock generally does pull back a bit, and that's quite normal. Like, so in a sense, looking at the volume, you can basically just see, hey, the price does fluctuate, but it's mainly because there's some traders in the stock, and it's normal because traders will get into stocks that have gone up this much. Like with this volatility, it creates opportunity, hence why the stock's just going to go up and down quite a bit. In terms of the RSI, it was trading well above 70. When it trades well above 70, then it means the stock is basically being overbought. And when it's overbought, it means basically there's a lot of people holding onto good profits, and they're likely to want to sell, because there's been a lot of buying. So hence why, in the absence of that, there's going to be some selling to basically balance that out. We're at 64, which is still relatively high, but it's not too bad. It's cooling down a bit. Potentially there would be some more selling to come, just to lower that RSI, and I think traders are going to look at that and feel like we're still in slightly overbought territory, but slowly reducing. And in terms of like simple moving averages, set the 5-day, the 8-day, and the 13. And basically the price has come below the 5-day, which, in a sense, it starts to sing, like the price in general has to catch up to moving averages, because it kind of averages out. So potentially we still might be coming down a little bit further. But because either it trades sideways, or it comes down a bit more, just for the moving averages to catch up in the shorter term time frame. And like if we do like the longer term analysis, and we go, if we take out the moving averages, because it's awfully confusing to look at it with the other charts, or with the other lines. So basically we're here. Basically the stock is finding support around this $12 area. So potentially it just goes sideways, it bounces back up, or it potentially could come down. If it breaks this kind of $12 zone, the next zone we're heading towards is more or less this $10 area. which is what it traded at not too long ago. So likely this $10 area will be the next support once if it gets like sold down a bit more, which kind of gives you information of what you want to do. If you're a longer term holder, then I don't feel like you have to do too much. But if you're not really in it for too long and you kind of feel like, oh, I don't actually, want to see $10 because that's technically close to another 20% drop, then yeah, like you might think, oh, actually I might get out of it in the shorter term. But it just depends on you. Like, at the like you can only use the information that's in front of you. And in this case, we either go sideways or we go to $10. I don't really see the stock kind of popping up too much in the absence of information. Like most cases, without information, stocks don't really have that momentum in it. But yeah, we'll have to see how things go. Let me know what your thoughts are, because like I myself, I'm like, my thing is like I don't normally focus that much on charting patterns. Like if I buy into a stock, I'm usually there for the longer term fundamentals, but I always get kind of like curious of what's happening with the charts, because in the absence of extra news, this is all we have. So I guess, it kind of just, at least it tells you some things around what's going on. I particularly like more looking at volume, because volume kind of just tells you what traders are doing. So overall, there's like majority of the people buying are actually holding for a longer term, whereas we've got a small amount of people who are profit takers and they're just dragging the stock down on very small volumes. But the minute you have some news, you've got more buyers, and hence why it's much easier for them to push up the stock as well. But apart from that, hopefully this kind of volatility hasn't caused you to panic. Like, panicking doesn't help. Like, this is why buying with the right reasons is very, very important, because if you buy for the right reasons, you know why you're holding. But if you don't know why you're buying, or you don't have that high conviction of why you're buying, then it kind of does cause panic. And in a lot of cases, people end up selling down because they kind of panic, they don't want to lose anymore. And that's the thing, like if you get into a risky stock, that's kind of what you got to prepare for. That volatility can be just soul crushing as well. So don't try not let it like crush your soul. Just kind of like look at the reasons why you brought it, and that is because potentially this COVID drug here, and we're waiting on FDA approval. While that's being done, you could just turn off the screen, not look at the share price. That's probably the easiest if you're in it for a longer term. But of course, it's really impossible, because you could be that invested, you could be that interested, and I know I am. Like, I will look at the share price so much just because I want to know what's happening all the time. But in reality, like, I could just probably go about my day without looking at the share price at all, and that's probably much more healthier, to be honest. But if you're a trader in a stock, then I guess, like, you probably know all the general indicators, patterns of what's coming up next. It's a higher chance the stock probably falls a little bit lower before it does go up on any news. But yeah, like, I guess at the current situation, we're watching the stock go down on low volumes. But potentially, if there's news, then we go back up on high volumes. But I wouldn't say there's anything to panic. Like, if we were going down on high volumes, then potentially we go, okay, there's lost confidence in the stock. Then potentially we have to look at that and then go, what's happening? But currently, I wouldn't say there's anything to panic. The volume just speaks for itself, that there's a small amount of profit takers, and most people who are that are interested in the stock, they've kind of brought into the stock already. So I wouldn't say there's like that much going on. Apart from that, let me know what your thoughts are or any questions. Until then, good luck investing, everyone.